TikTok, it's time to rock. Did anybody in the chat work out which was the real Simon, the real rock professor, and the real Andrew? Brad couldn't. We had Brad fooled when we dropped him into the stream from the green room. He couldn't work out which one was real.
I was lost, but I'm easily misled, Andrew, as you know.
We're surrounding you, brother.
That's a nasty case of sunburn. That is.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit surrounded by the British Electric Blues crew. I've cornered in.
We've got you, man. When we dragged you onto the show and said to you, "You're not going anywhere," we're serious.
This is just a gentle reminder to don't go anywhere. I know you've been trying to groom me for other things, but I'm not going anywhere because I can't. I'm not allowed to.
No.
Oh, gosh. Good to see you guys. My name is Andrew. Welcome to the Sunday show, the British Electric Blues, with the Rock Professor on the top tier as usual, holding us all the way from the gig in Tassie. Everybody loves Brad. There he is on the bottom there. My gosh.
Holding up the world like Atlas.
Oh, my gosh. Good to see you guys. Good to see you, Rock Professor.
Yeah, cool. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing? How was your gig yesterday, Brad? Tasmania. Did you fly to Tasmania?
Yeah, flew down to Tasmania.
Oh,
literally.
Do they have airports in Tasmania?
What was that, sorry?
Do they have airports in Tasmania, or do they just push you out of the plane?
Just get dropped out of the door, mate. See ya.
with your Marshall on your back, yeah, Marshall parachute, guitar,
guitar in one hand, parachute, on the other cord. I literally walked through the door and I've jumped straight on here. So it was a fantastic show. Great bunch of people. Very hillbilly country sort of vibe, which is really cool. I dig that. And everyone got right into what we're doing. It was lots of rock guitar, lots of loud drumming, and lots of vocals.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Yeah. But I excuse the tardiness and the tired look I've got today, but I'm here. That's all that matters.
It was cool, bro. It was cool to see you, and we always appreciate the fact that any of the co-hosts, if they're doing anything, can jump on and spare them a bit of time. So the fact that you hung out with us for a little bit yesterday was really, really cool, and I think people enjoyed it. I know Keith did. I know Keith did, and so I think what people need to realise in the chat is that when we get together as co-hosts and we get a guest on, it's seriously, it's to make that guest feel like they're part of the gang, and the fact that everyone in the chat can see and participate in that, well, that's a consequence of just being, what's the word, Rock Professor? Hospitable.
Indeed, hospitable is our middle name.
Hospitable, and we are genuinely interested in what our regulars, their opinions. I mean, they're very valid to us, and the experiences and the joy that band brought. Keith, for example, like Van Halen's obviously such a massive part of his life, and it's just great to hear, from his side of the fence, what it's like for him and what it means to him, and it just really, if anything, strengthens everything we do here. We love what we're doing, and to have people that passionate about the band come on here and can spend an hour and a half, 2 hours talking about it, and probably could have gone for 5 hours or more, is it's an amazing thing. So we're really grateful to have Keith on and have future shows with him, and hopefully more people in the chat that are passionate about what we're doing as well.
Yeah, I think it proves my point yesterday's with Key. Everyone's got a story, you know, and you know
100%.
what a story, you know, and it's really, I think it's really cool to bring those, you know, to get those stories out, to have somebody on the show who's talking about that stuff, and it was fantastic, you know, nearly 200 views in 24 hours, so you know, lots of other people think the same, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And but it's always been a theme, though, Rock Professor, of what we've always wanted to do here on the show. Yes, we have plans for shows, because obviously, as Brad does so brilliantly, is prepare for these shows. So, and the Rock
Yeah,
Professor as well. But we've always said it right from the word go, right from our first show. If you guys want to jump on and hang out with us, and that includes anybody in the chat. You know, that's a regular. You know, the invitation is there. All you have to do is send me a message, send Brad, the backdoor man, a message, flick one to the Rock Professor, and we'll do the best we can to get you on.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, it was fantastic. It was brilliant. I was awake to make sure you were behaving yourselves as well. You were making a lot of noise from down under, and I was awakened at 3:40 a.m. by a lot of noise. I came on to complain.
Oh. No, it was nice to see you. But yeah, as Brad said, though, Rock Professor, it was good to have Keith on. He was on our Christmas show, you guys might remember, and he'd been, as you guys are well aware, a regular contributor to both shows' chats. You know, so, and he went through a bit of sorrow and grief with his, you know, wife passing away, and the fact that he says that, you know, hanging out with this YouTube community has helped him through that process is amazing. And the fact that our channel, hey guys, has helped is humbling.
It's good, yeah, which is nice. That
Rock Professor, you want to do a quick shout out, and then we'll get Brad at the end of the show to finish it up and throw those final nail hellos in the box.
Yeah, that's cool. So we should say good morning to Derek Clacton. Morning, Derek. Another UK person. Wake early, Derek. Welcome to Insomniac Special. Nelson, of course. Nelson Rodriguez. Morning, Nelson. You can see Nelson around various chats. Gret Zeppelin. Morning, Gret. Philip Byers. Ellen. And Helene. And Robert Ranford. Gret Zeppelin, of course. Good morning, team. I think that's everybody right now. So morning to everyone. Hope we're all good and had a good week.
Afternoon.
Yeah. Afternoon, evening. Yes. Judging everyone by their own standards.
Thank you, Rock Professor. Hey guys, before we kick off the show, it's you know, we've got some interesting news that we want to share with you guys too. We've got a couple of other shout outs to do, but in the course of the last couple of days on social media, I found out that there's going to be a new book on one of the bands that's a foundation of our channel, the Fleetwood Mac band with Peter Green. And this is the book that's going to be dropped in October. I'll put the website up, Fleetwood Mac in Chicago. It's the famous jam session that they did with a whole lot of authentic black blues guys at Chess Studios back in '69. So if you're a Fleetwood Mac nut, that album is crucial. It's a key component to that legacy of Fleetwood Mac. So anything that's going to, Brad, celebrate that and talk about that has to be, promoted, and our channel will do the best that we can. So this is the channel there, guys, of the book. So hold on, I'll go through there and see if I can. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, we can. Barnes and Noble.
Okay, so at the moment it's on pre-order at Barnes and Noble for that's $39. I suspect that'll be American, Simon. But if you buy your books from Amazon, go to Amazon. But if you're a Fleetwood Mac nut and you want to secure a copy, it's probably really important to do it now, because I think this is Is this how it works? They secure so many first edition books, and if you miss out, that's pretty much it until the second edition.
I think so.
I think that's if you're
Pretty
doing
sure
it.
that's
If you,
exactly.
anyway, kind of doing it yourself, I think that's what you're doing. You kind of pre-order stuff, and you know, they see what the demand is, and then print up what they need for that demand. I noticed fantastic forwards by is it Mike Vernon and is it Leonard Chess? One of the Chess. It was Leonard or Marshall off the top of my head, but yeah, amazing forwards. Nice Marsh. They were still alive, but
Vernon's in Spain, and Marshall's still in the States somewhere. But what's really, really interesting for anybody that might be interested is we've managed to secure Jeff and Robert, the photographer and the author, the guy who's collated the stories together and basically produced the book. Or edited the book. They've agreed to come on and do a show with us soon. So we're just in the process of finalising that, and we'll do everything that we can to promote that show. And we would like everyone in the chat, once they get that link, to do their best and get it out there too.
Yeah. Robert Ramford says Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac is my jam. Thanks for the heads up, Andrew. So there we are. Cool.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah. So if you go to our YouTube page, I've pinned that link on this show. It's the pinned link if you guys want to go to it and pre-order. But we're certainly looking forward to it. I want to do a shout out to obviously a very, very good friend of the channel who we haven't heard from for a while, Warren. We're just sending out some positive thoughts for you, Warren, and prayers for you. Yeah. We look forward to you, bro, coming back and hanging out with us. And I'm going to pass it on to the Rock Professor, and he's going to pass it down to Brad because we've got a couple of other shout outs. Rock Professor.
Yes, a couple of other shout outs. We should mark the passing of Gary Brooker from Procol Harum.
Rest in peace, Gary.
Yeah, so great to, that sort of seminal psychedelic period, which Whitey Shade of Pale is one of the great psychedelic singles of all time. And my personal link to my grandmother taught piano at the Guildhall in London, and she taught Matthew Fisher to play. He was in Procol Harum, the other keyboard player in Procol Harum. So personal attachment. So yes, rest in peace, Gary Brooker.
Rest in peace, Gary.
Yeah, rest in peace. I've got a bit of a shout out to someone that we hold near and dear to our hearts here in the British Electric Blues show, to George Harrison. It was his birthday this week. And I saw, the only reason I knew is because I've been very slack on social media lately. And I know. And I opened up my Instagram and I saw this lovely, lovely picture of on Paul McCartney's Instagram of George and him singing BBs, whatever they're doing. Just and like Paul McCartney's put so many sweet memories of George. But just cool, heartwarming sort of picture. And I mean, we all love the Beatles here, so I thought that was a lovely picture to show.
Thank you, bro. If anybody's interested, the Rock Professor, Brad, and I did we do 3 episodes on
Get Back?
All Things Must Pass?
Yeah. Oh, we did. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So if you guys love George Harrison, go back to the channel and you'll see we've done, as Brad said, and we've done 3 on. Yeah, so we love the Beatles here, and George Harrison in particular. But I've got to tell you guys, I've got to be honest. That 3 series that we did with George Harrison, with All Things, one of the best series I think the channel's ever done. The hard work that we put into that those 3 series. Wow.
Yeah. Still one of my favorites is All Things Must Pass. We did that, and the Layla and other sort of love songs. Those 2. If you haven't looked back at our episodes for a while, go and watch one of those. They were a lot of hard work, but they were really, really, really fun to do.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. But look, and I've been getting some cool messages. I'm glad that Brad has owned up and confessed to being absolutely slack on Instagram. I'm glad that he has.
Yeah. Yeah, no, sometimes I get busy, it's like when I'm busy, sometimes the social media thing drops off, and, I make up for it though. Don't worry.
Mate, you're just working hard. You're working hard on your job, and you're working hard here. So,
and I'm a dad too, so don't discount that. That's almost a full-time job as well. So dad, job, band job, and I've got a girlfriend. So you got to juggle all these things. Got to keep everyone happy. But most
you're doing a wonderful job, because Rock Professor and I are very happy.
Most importantly, I've got to keep you happy, Andrew, or God help me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What a greaser. No. I just wanted to say, bro. Yeah, seriously, obviously, work comes first. That's always been the condition of doing anything, isn't it? Work and family. And that's always the case it's going to be. And if we can't do this because of that, or social media because of that, well, we're just being on the spot doing what we're supposed to do. But I got a couple of good messages, though, Brad, about this album that we're going to talk about. So I think once again, the British Electric Blues show every now and again pulls out a real shiny pearler, and this could be one.
I have to
Shiny
agree.
pearl.
I have to agree. It's one of my favorites, and I haven't listened to it for a long time. And I'm so glad that I decided to do this one, because, to be honest with you, it's a badass album, and I'm looking forward to deep diving into this. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a few comments here. I'm just reading. Nelson, Brad is the rad dad. I'll take that.
Yes,
Thank
you
you.
are.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Cool.
All good. So no, yeah, it's a, and I think it's a very, very important album for Deep Purple's the history of Deep Purple, which we'll get into when we dive into it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Johnny Bean's in the chat. Thanks, Johnny Bean. Thank you. And who else did? Well, yeah. If you guys have jumped in, Brad will say hi at the end. Simon, we've done a few Deep Purple albums, and was this an album that you bought when it was dropped?
It's a bit early for me. I didn't start buying records till 72, so it's one. I mean, it's Machine Head really that is my era, and of course the classic Made in Japan. Made in Japan is what what we used to play in. But this was part of it. On that Mark II lineup with Roger Glover and Ian Pace. Absolutely my era. This is where I came in. So it's been great to go back to it and sort of listen to it with new and critical ears. I think it's and see if you can spot because I think it's probably quite influential.
Yeah. There's
There's
a lot of which I'll go into when we get into it, but this is like a blueprint, this record, for a lot of rock bands. It's like a textbook for them,
Look, I agree. There's one thing that I'd like to say before I hand it on to my other co-hosts for the introduction, but you know how I tell you guys how I can instantly pick out an album and just lurch onto it, just like a parasite, just jump onto it and suck everything out of it for all the goodness out of it. I'm going to tell you, and see, Deep Purple, and I mean this respectfully, Deep Purple are a very sophisticated band. There's just something about the music. And when I sat back about 4 days ago and listened to it, I was mesmerized, Brad and Simon, by in 1970, 1969, again, it's a theme that we like to talk about too. The way that they captured the sound of this band, this raw power, just blew my socks off, Brad.
Yeah, 100%.
There's something about it, isn't there? There's something about that in the studio set, playing together thing that is, for me has a magic that that maybe stuff that where you build it all up doesn't quite have in the same way.
Yeah.
I may be missing the point, but
Yeah. Look, I have to say, I love there's an anxious feel on a lot of Deep Purple songs and on records. There's like an anxious feel, there's excitement. You can tell that they're recording a lot of the beds live, and some of the takes on this record in particular are probably just live cuts. And that to me is the mark of incredible musicians and an incredible tight band that can just get on, press record, and pull off what they pulled off on this record. Absolutely amazing.
completely, yeah. Couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah. And I mean, look, you can really tell when you listen to this record that John Lord, Richie Blackmore, and Ian Pace were the driving force of Deep Purple. You can really tell on this record because if you know Deep Purple well and you know their previous singer before Ian Gillan, you knew, which we'll get into in a minute, that they were trying to go in a direction that was hard rock, and they really wanted to be the pioneers of it, and they had a vision, so they went with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love that. I think that's the determination of a band to have a vision and stick to it, regardless of what's popular, what's not. That to me is that's what can create success. I won't say it creates success every time, but especially in this era, when they were pioneers of what they were trying to do, you're going to get somewhere. There's just no way that this band wasn't going to be successful.
I'd agree with that. I think that it's that. I mean, and then in 1970, you 69, you could have that vision, couldn't you? Because nobody else was doing it. They're driving forward with your own personal vision of your music and what you want to do. I think then it's probably easier then than it is now, because it's because it hadn't been done. The technologies, everything's moving forward at pace. And the ideas, the way that you view music is clearly moving forward. Gone from pop to LPs, and that that thing about making LPs, making records, and the importance that people put on making those records. I mean, the artists put on making those records, and it's really cool.
And one thing I want to share with you guys too, when I was a young guy listening to records and getting into this great music that we love and celebrate on this channel, and this is no disrespect to these bands, but most of the guys that were listening to, for example, Led Zeppelin or the Stones, and this was a remarkable memory that came back to me that I want to share with you guys. But most of the guys that were listening to Led Zeppelin or the Stones, for example, were just music fans. From my experience, the guys that were listening, Brad especially, the guys that were listening to Deep Purple, and I remember these guys, a guy called Shane Retty, they were guitar players. So a lot of the guys that I knew in my immediate circle and those peripheries that we hang out with, the guys that were listening to Deep Purple were, actual guitar players. So I think that was a point I wanted to share with you guys. Don't know what it means.
No, well, I think they were a very musician-based band. Like the musos would gravitate to this band a little bit more because there was a lot of intricacies in the music, and the arrangements of the songs somewhat perfectionist when it comes to musicianship-wise. Like if you're a songwriter, the arrangements, they were taking you on a journey for what the idea was, but they were the arrangements. Even when I'm talking arrangements, even just the compositions on the guitar and keyboards together when they played together, they were very musical pieces that were, worked on and worked out before they press the record button, so that, you know, that's going to come across more appealing to a musician, I think, than it is just someone who likes to hear, a classic rock song. That's why I think a lot of musicians gravitate to Deep Purple.
Yeah, I also think that also there's the other
I
side
think you're
of
right.
it is that sort of particularly Blackmore. There's a kind of sonic attack to them as well, isn't there? You know, that thing that I'm gonna make a noise, not necessarily gonna be melodic. I'm gonna go, wah, you know, and absolutely just hammer into it, because that is the other side of the guitar. You know, the sort of if you like, the Hendrix side. You know, the kind of that primal kind of make a noise with it, not a melodic noise necessarily, but this kind of, you know, tremendous kind of noise, you know, that sonic thing that also is the other side of the guitar besides the melodic thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hendrix was a massive influence to the band, especially on Richie Blackmore. And he, even to this day, like 4 years ago, he did an interview with Guitar World, I think it was. I've got the interview, and I want to highlight a couple of things in that later. But he still talks about Hendrix and how he got his tone, and it was a lot clearer and cleaner than people thought. There was less sustain from fuzzes. It was a lot clearer and bigger. But we'll get into that a bit later as we go on into the show. But I have to agree, Simon. I think there was an abrasion, there was an aggression that was abrasive from Richard Blackmore. He
absolutely,
he wanted to be in your face, whether it was in concert, on video, or in your ears when you're listening to it on an LP. He wanted that to from the very opening notes of Speed King on this album, which we'll get into, it's like an explosion. And you can just imagine them in the studio performing that live like they did on stage. And that's how they did it. He's pulling that bar. And you're thinking about, to the point where
that's
you're
exactly
a perfectionist. In the day, geez, he would have had a good guitar tech to make sure the strings stayed in tune when you're pulling on the bar the way he did, and he was very aggressive. So, I think there's so many things here with this record that we can talk about as we're going, rather than at this point. So maybe we should dive into the record, guys.
Yeah, let's dive in.
I just wanted to also say, I saw a comment before from Derek Clacton. As a little bit off topic, but close to our hearts here. Gary Moore biographies. I didn't know there was a couple coming out, so please keep us in the loop there. I saw that before, and I just remembered again as you highlighted one of his comments. So please, Derek, if you know more about those autobiographies that are coming out this year, please let us know about them and how we can look them up. Or I guess we've got Google, but if you've got an inside to it, let us know, because we want our hands on them. Yeah. So, guys, is it a good time to start going through this record and deep diving into the tracks? And it's an exciting record for me, and I'm thank you guys for letting me pick this one, because as everyone knows here, I'm pretty heavily into my hard rock and blues, but I tend to gravitate to more the heavier things on this channel. I think I love the Sabbath and the Deep Purple and the Led Zeppelin, obviously, of course, is like one of my favorites. As much as I love everything we do, but my heart's in this sort of music, so I get really excited when we touch these records. So, Deep Purple in rock. It was released on the 5th of June 1970, and it was recorded in multiple studios from October 69 to April 1970, which included the very famous Abbey Road in London. Deep Purple, this time round, chose to produce the album themselves, which is the first time they'd ever done this. It's the 4th studio album, and it's the first one as the lineup Mark II. So if anyone knows Deep Purple well enough, there was a Mark I lineup, and this is the classic lineup Mark II that everyone knows, that did Smoke on the Water and all the classic hits from Deep Purple. So this one here, in the middle of 69, Richie Blackmore, John Lordney and Pace decided to replace their lead singer and their bass player. They wanted to replace their singer because they wanted someone who could pull off more of a hard rock style. They'd recently signed with Harvest Records in the UK, which were a very progressive and underground style label. But their owner, Malcolm Jones, saw Deep Purple as only really being relevant with gimmicks and needed to work on their songwriting. So this inspired the band to try and bring some people into the fold that were more song orientated and could pull off this hard rock style that they so much wanted to endeavor. Richie Blackmore in particular wanted the sound to go for that heavy hard rock sort of sound after hearing Led Zeppelin's first album. So Blackmore went in search of a new singer, like they all did, and he thought it would be a suitable move to replace the bass player and the singer. He went to his good friend Mick Underwood, who was the drummer of a band called Episode 6, and conveniently Ian Gillan was the lead singer of that band as well. And as legend has it, Pace, Blackmore, and Lord went to see Episode 6 at the Woodford Green on the 4th of June. And Richie Blackmore actually joined them on stage for a song or two. I think he sat in with the band. They decided to offer Gillan the lead singer role in Deep Purple, and Roger Glover also came from the same band. And Glover and Gillan were good friends, had already formed a great songwriting partnership, which is something that was lacking, obviously, in the Deep Purple lineup from the Mark I version. So on June 7, Gillan and Glover were asked to do a recording session with Deep Purple and on their next single, which was Hallelujah. And after that session, Ian Gillan and Roger Glover decided to join the band, basically forming what we know today as the Mark II version of Deep Purple. And this album in particular, like I said before, was the first one that they produced themselves. But they did use a lot of engineers and guidance from them, particularly Martin Birch. He was brought in to help pre-produce more of a live sound, and basically this in rock album, including the title, was a reaction to an album they released prior to this called Concerto for Group and Orchestra, emphasizing bass. It was more of an orchestrated thing, and it was very John Lord driven from my understanding. But they wanted to be known as a hard rock band. So how do you do that? You name your album in rock. That's the simplest way to do it. So they were re-emphasizing the fact that they were a rock band and they were here to stay as a rock band. The cover, it's the Mount Rushmore with their phases superimposed over the presidents of the United States on it. So I thought that was a very clever thing. It's in rock. They're set in rock, and the album's called In Rock. So you couldn't actually progress from whatever they were doing to the next chapter of their band any better way. And I love that album cover too. I think it's fantastic. In Rock was the band's first real breakthrough album in Europe, and it reached number 4 in the UK. It remained in the charts for over a year, and they released a single on the back end of this to accompany the album, which isn't on the album, called Black Knight, which I'm sure everyone knows, and it got to number 2 in the charts as well. I personally think this album we're about to dive into is still, in my opinion, an example of hard rock and heavy metal. It's a blueprint for those genres, and I still think to this day it's a textbook for a lot of bands. Subconsciously or consciously, they know this record. We're going to bring up and highlight some relevant influences that people who've spawned from this when we go through, and especially the rock professor is going to bring something up that I think is pretty evident once you know it and you really listen to it. You go, wow, yeah, I can hear that now. So I'm looking forward to that. So guys, I'm going to ask you, what was the first time you actually listened to this album, what you thought? Andrew, can you tell me what the first time you ever listened to this album, what did you think? Were you, because we're all Deep Purple nuts, obviously. So can you remember back to the first time you listened to this record?
I was blown away, and I was lucky to. I was about 17, Brad and Simon and everyone in the chat when I first heard this album. So I I had a couple of years of hard rock in my belly, so I could digest this. My ears were conditioned to it. But that first track that we're going to talk about just blew me away. The first track. And again, listening to it a couple of days ago in preparation for this show, just as Brad likes to talk about, the hairs standing up on your arm kind of thing. So, 17, and like I said to you guys before when we were just doing the general introduction, a couple of the guys I was hanging out with at that time were just Deep Purple nuts, and Blackmore was everything. This guy Shane I was hanging out with was just digesting and listening to this album, and it was vinyl too. Rock Professor, it was vinyl. He was, just constantly. So it's a special album to me because of those memories, but. As the Rock Professor will talk about too, and Brad mentioned, it's a Pavement album because a lot of bands jumped off from this. But having said that, though, on this album you can hear influences from other bands as well. So it's one of these gem albums that's going to set the path forward, but clearly isn't ashamed of nicking a few things from other bands. Love the album, Rock Professor.
Well, yes, Deep Purple and Rock. This is where I came in, basically. I mean, I came in really the album after Machine Head and Made in Japan, but this was part of that when I was 14. These are part of the albums that we listened to when we first, fresh out and went back a little bit, and clearly, Black Knight was a big hit around the time, and that was played at all the rock. We used to go to rock discos on a Wednesday night. A club called Tiffany's, give it a right, and that was one of the big songs they played. So
still a big number on classic rock here, Black Knight.
Keith, well, it came out in 1970. Keith,
hey Keith, good to see you, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. They said so. That's just part of my teenage, rock world that we inhabited, as I said, along with Machine Head and Made in Japan and Led Zeppelin and all of that.
Yeah.
Part of my.
What about you, Brad?
Well, for me, no, sorry,
Rock Professor.
I didn't realize. I heard Speed King on a compilation album. I think it was called Deepest Purple. And it didn't have the start. It didn't have the tag at the start with all the, like what I call the explosive part at the start. It had from the fade with the organ. And the first time I ever grabbed this record was back in the 90s. I grabbed it on CD as an anniversary special, and it had extra tracks, had Black Knight on it and all that. And the first time I put it in, I was like, "What the hell is this?" I was literally just blown back in my seat. I was waiting to hear from where I knew the song started. Like, I never realized that it was that long. I'm like, wow, I was just going, what the hell? So I sat back in my car listening to this going, I've never heard this before. And I've been listening to this song for years at this point. So I actually skipped back to the start of the CD to make sure it was the right song. I was like, this isn't the same song. So I went back. It's like a minute or something before the song picks up from where I knew on the Deepest Purple version onwards, sort of thing. So that blew me away. But this record in particular, we all talk about the classic Machine Head album. I'm a big fan of this record as well as Fireball. I love the records, the way they played. They're like timestamps, from my opinion, of Deep Purple. And this one, man, you can really hear the band are trying to make a bold statement on this record, and I love that. It's infectious. I love it. It captivated me from the minute I listened to this record. I'd heard Child in Time and all that, but Bloodsucker and things like that. Like, these songs were just, Flight of the Rat. These songs were just, they took me. They took me by the short curlies, and I couldn't let go.
I like a man who goes back to the 90s to hear things in the old days in the 90s.
For me, yeah. Well, that was when they re-released it in the 90s. In the 90s, so
I know. I find that astonishing that you would somehow leave off the front bit, and then you wouldn't recognise it. That's bizarre.
That's why greatest hits, generally speaking, are dud albums.
100%. I'm not a big fan of ever. I have to be honest with you. I reluctantly buy a greatest hits or best of any band. I just think I'd rather buy an album that they've done. That's just why, But so that's pretty much all I really wanted to go on. I want to sort of go into the songs a bit more than the actual, history of the band, because I'm sure we all know the history of the band and where they went from this point. But everyone in the chat, let us know what your first initial reaction was when you heard this record in particular, because for us, it's for me in particular, it's a very important record.
Well, it's important for Keith too, because it grabbed him before he had short and curlies. So
just say that one of the things I read is that clearly this came out, Black Sabbath's Paranoid came out, and Uriah Heep came out in 1970. The sort of, that kind of coalescing of, of that rock sound that, that goes forward, and look what it spawned.
Yeah. So, guys, you want to dive into the tracks now?
Yeah. So, Brad, the Backdoor Man's going to go first, followed by the Rock Professor. I'm going to top it off. And as usual, guys, if you're familiar with the album, throw your rankings in, follow us, agree with us, or completely ditch us. It's fine. It's fine.
Don't just copy what we say either, because there's a few of us that are doing that. We want your opinions, all right? So anyway, look, Speed King, we've already discussed this a little bit in depth now already, that explosive intro over that, that guitar at the top with the whammy bar, the way he's pulling that bar. I mean, you would expect that a Stratocaster would go out of tune doing that, but for some reason he just manages to bring it back. There's he must have a bit of graphite in that nut or something like that to help the strings go back into tune. But that's an amazing piece. It's like a bold statement. It's like, we're here, we rock. That was the initial thought when I first heard it. The drums, the organ, the bass, all in at the same time. It's just like this big explosion. The riff inspired by Jimi Hendrix's Fire. It really highlights Blackmore's creative mind, and he's brilliant. You can't deny the fact that he's one of the pioneers on guitar. Ian Gillan immediately demands your attention in this song. There's so much energy and fire in the delivery. You can tell they're playing live on this for the most part. Very catchy chorus. Great little mellow breakdown interplay with the keyboards and the guitar, with the sort of tone rolled back on the guitar. So it's got that nice little warm tone to it. I love that section where the keyboards does a little bit, and then the guitar and the keyboards. It's just fantastic. Richie displays some flamboyant guitar playing. He hits that whammy bar effortlessly. I'm not sure. This is what I wasn't sure, and I could be wrong. It sounds like he's playing the Strat here, but it could be his 355 as well, because I'm not sure. After the solo breakdown sections, we have Ian Gillan giving us everything he's got again with his scream. It's just unbelievable. This guy's such a young fella, and he's just pulling off this vocal ability of someone who sounds like he's in his 30s or 40s. Just unbelievable. We hear another verse. They're definitely a good rock band, you can tell, but this is a fantastic opening track, fantastic way to open an album, and honestly, one of my favorite Deep Purple songs. I'm giving it 100 out of 10, never a skip.
Boom! Off Brad scores straight off the bat.
Straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Simon.
Yeah, I'll highlight a couple of things. I think that we can, that the way that the guitar and the organ intermesh together is, this is where it comes in clearly. But that intermission, so that sometimes, you know, they play together and they play a lot of stuff together to give it a really big sound, a really big thing. You know, you put your Hammond organ through your Marshalls, you know, you get a sound, don't you? Clearly that genre sound. I think that one of the really integral parts of their sound is that intermeshing between the keyboards and the guitar, and the way that it goes back and forth. You know, so Black will do some of that, and then John Lord will do sort of, you know, the bass figure, the organ figures. You know, I mean, like that, they do that massive start, and they just drops down. It has that just a little bit of church organ type thing. John Lord, you know, and for me that highlights the other major thing probably we're going to talk about on this album is, and I've talked about it a lot recently, is that kind of the way that they stop, the way that they interplay, the dynamics of it are really, you know, really strong. And I think the way that, you know, they take it down, bring it back up, bring it back in, you know, change tempo, all sorts of things, and really interesting that, you know, because they had, you know, finite sounds that you can do, because they didn't have, you know, chorus pedals and octavers and whatever else, you know, so you had to find a different way of doing it. If you're going to do, I've said this a lot on this about recent tracks, you know, if you're going to do a 6-minute track, then you have to understand about the dynamics in that track to keep it interesting, to keep it moving forward, you know. And I mean, I like the manic laugh at the end, you know. That was really cool, you know. We've got something here, guys. And yeah, and also I think that Roger Glover is a fantastic driving bass player. You know, he's not Mr. Flash guy, but you know, Ian Pace. I think Ian Pace's drumming is amazing. You know, he's always changing, always moving it around, which is fantastic. But clearly, if you're going to do that from the bass player has to be a bit steadier, don't they? We can't have everybody thrashing away at it. And I think he holds it down. He understands his role perfectly, holds it down, and is the bedrock on which they can all play off. So 100 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Fantastic. Well, it's a great song. 10 out of 10. You know, it's kind of, you know, beyond that is beyond that. But I'm going to give it 10. Actually, I'm not going to give it 100. It's 10. But there are others.
Andrew.
Poison Vigor. That's just what it is for me when I hear this track, Poison Vigor. There's no dependency on any other band on this track. There's no foundation that Deep People are standing on that could be on other tracks to come, which I said before isn't bad. But on this track, there is no dependency. This is pure, in my mind, to my ear, pure Deep Purple. I love the fact, too, guys, when I was doing some research for this, that the bass player in this band plays a pivotal role in the songwriting. The riff apparently was based around the bass player, Glover's riff. I love that. And we all know that Led Zeppelin relied heavily on John Paul Jones and his contribution to the band, because as bass players, wannabe bass players, we know bass players listen here something a little bit different. They hear all these other instruments going on. So what they bring to that songwriting process, Brad, is special. And we're going to hear that on a lot of these songs on this album. One other thing before I pass it back to you, Brad, for the next song. Again, doing some research on this album. So they went and played a lot of these tracks live before they recorded them. So they would have freaked out some audiences by playing this live in between, say, a couple of well-known songs. Just imagine that. Yeah, you know, I've been freaked out going, what the heck is this? Because it freaked me out, and it still freaks me out. And I'm happy to see that people in the chat are giving it a high score. It deserves its place in rock and roll history, bro. I have to Brad score it. I can't just give it a wimpy 10 out of 10.
You're right about that. I mean, we've talked a bit about this on here before, but that thing that you could, in those days, you could go out and play things live before you recorded them. They recorded it. They replayed this live as their opening song for about 8 months. You know.
Yes.
And I love this. You know me. I love a good fact. Apparently, the song got bumped on September the 13th, 1971, when the band decided they wanted a new song to open their show. So they wrote Highway Star.
Yeah. Not
And
bad, eh?
performed it that night.
Unreal.
That's pretty, bumped for
Hey,
Highway
Holly.
Star. There can be no higher accolade than that, I think. But yes, that fact that they played it for 8 months before they recorded it is a classic 1970s. You could do that. Pink Floyd toured most of Dark Side of the Moon for ages before they recorded it.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're all on the same page with that one, but it's
you and I are.
Oh, well,
Saucer of milk for Mr. Walton. Yes.
There's a little bit of
not enough. Okay, 100 out of 10. Fine.
All right. Thank you. I see what peer pressure does.
It's bullying and harassment on the internet. There we are. Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, from Speed King to Bloodsucker. So this is just it rips open this song. It's just from the word go. It's the riff opens the song. The focus comes straight in on Ian Gillan's like vocal gymnastics. Really, that's how I can't really sort of describe it any other way. He seems to have an effortless ability to scream on those high notes, and it's actually quite amazing. It's like inhuman. It's not possible for the average person to be able to do what he does vocally. I love the little breakdown in the middle of the song, and it leads to the guitar solo. We hear Richie playing some classy like licks and using his bar a lot in this one. In the organ solo, when the solo comes in, John Lord absolutely hypnotizes us. His playing is just it's hypnotic. It's amazing. Then we hear Richie play another guitar solo, which leads to another organ solo. So the end of the song comes like along, and basically we've heard two solos, and then we go back to another amazing vocal performance, and then the band pretty much leads the song out to a fade. Look, for me, it's 9 out of 10. It's never a skip, but it's an amazing song. I had to give it a 9 though, based on how I've ranked some of the other tracks on this album. So I love this song. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Isn't it? It's another example of that verve and that sort of. And I love the fact that in those days, and I think that they just, Blackmore particularly, but he hurls himself at it. He absolutely hurls himself. When he's going to play, it's like I'm going to come in and you're going to know it. I'm punched in the face a lot of the time. Fantastic. We talked a bit. And for me, there's slightly a feel. I don't necessarily say that Eddie Van Halen got some stuff from this. Is that kind of a thing at all? Is it that that kind of way of? I mean, clearly not quite the same thing, but the whammy guitar. It just sort of reminded me of a bit of Eddie Van Halen. That somehow there was some bits he might have taken and incorporated that into his own playing. But I love that. I love that verve. I love that kind of that energy, that aggression that they bring. It's just amazing. And I think that you forget it, and forget about those things, because later on, when you had sort of you've got to calm down a bit, and then you got punk sweeping away the sort of bloated rock thing. But this is tight, focused, aggressive rock. I mean, it really is. Sorry, Brad, you were going to say something?
No, I was going to say, I think not just Van Halen, but you brought up Eddie Van Halen. I think a lot of the, pretty much like Alex Van Halen, I think the whole Van Halen band drew influence from this record when you think about it, because just it's like their first record for Van Halen was like a monumental movement, and this record's like a rebirth of Deep Purple because it was a new lineup. So 100%, they definitely were influenced by this. And Eddie, 100%, Richie Blackmore must have been an influence, without a doubt.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Oh,
amongst them.
100%,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
You know, he draws a lot of, verbal reference to Eric Clapton's Cream, but,
Yeah.
I still think
That's
this
right.
record, and Andrew might be able to sort of allude to a little bit more about Eddie Van Halen's love for this record.
Just trying to tie it into the shows, Gov. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But it do strike me as being possibly a thing, there. But yeah, I mean, this is a 9 out of 10 song. It's never a skip. It has all the classic things. I love was it Helen's comment about? I must remember not to have the learn not to have the headphones on max when Ian Gillan's doing opening scream.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Unbelievable.
is. But yeah, amazing, and clearly a live thing. That back and forth between the guitar and the organ. Fantastic, Mr. Walton.
Oh, look, it's a song that can't be underestimated. I'm going to cheat and give this 2 rankings. I'm going to give it a ranking for the band and a ranking for the vocalist, because that muscular maturity that Gillan brings to this song, just it's beyond my hearing capacity. And everybody in the chat obviously is agreeing with what we're saying. So, Gillan just barges his way in with this, and it's just phenomenal. It's a blueprint. It can't be underestimated. So I'm going to give Gillan 10 out of 10 because its vocals are a standout for me on this track. And I'm going to give the band an 8 out of 10. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but sometimes in a song for us there's a standout, and this is one of them. This is where Gillan, in my opinion, Brad especially. And you could pick a dozen songs, but where he's putting his stamp on rock and roll history. But this is one of them for me. I can't top what Brad said and the Rock Professor has said. I won't repeat it, but be very careful when you're listening with cans. Yeah, good advice, Holly. Good advice. Never a skip, bro. Never a skip.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's definitely one of Ian Gillan's wilder performances vocally. There's so much vocal gymnastics, like I put it in there. It's just amazing. So we're up to Child in Time. So I don't really know where to start with this song. It's an amazing song. It's an all-time classic. It's one of my favorite Deep Purple songs. From the intro with the keyboards, John Lord displays his genius. It's like a masterpiece in classic rock. The mood set by Ian Pace's cymbal work, it's so delicate, and the finesse he's playing with, and in the song, his ability to ride the dynamics. It's like this was definitely recorded live. I couldn't imagine recording this any other way to get those dynamics. It just seems so effortless for the band in this song. Ian Gillan sings world class here. It's hard to believe this is his first album with Deep Purple, in my opinion. He's singing like a mature man. He's very young at this particular point. And Richie Blackmore, what can I say? This particular song displays why Richie is one of my all-time favorite guitar players. It's hard to believe. This is recorded live, and what they've actually put down on tape here is something where it's a moment captured. It's one of those, I'm sure Deep Purple probably had those moments every time they stepped in a studio together. But for me, if they did 3 takes of this was the gold. You can hear it. It's just gold. The song builds up. It's got that natural build up, and you can hear Ian Gillan escalating his vocal, with the dynamics of the band to the point where he's screaming and he's doing the wow, and I can't even do it. It's like it's up in the next register above where most humans can sing to, and then he just keeps going and going. It's like he's never going to stop that high note that he just keeps pushing, and it's done with so much power. It's not falsetto. It's actually his voice. He's pushing it. It's coming from his chest. He's beating it out. sounds like his throat's starting to bleed at certain points, and that to me, he's giving everything he had possible in this song. Then we've got like the accents, which lead to like a beautiful guitar solo, and the bass playing from Roger Glover under that solo is just world class. There's nothing anyone could have done any better under his bass playing is perfect for the song. Ian Pace, he plays on this song like a seasoned professional, someone who's been playing for 30 years and is not even 30 years old. He's one of these guys that had natural swing, natural dynamics, amazing drum fills, and his own style. I mean, we talk about other drummers, and one we talk about a lot is John Bonham. And I think Ian Pace gets overlooked a little bit because it was the same era, and Bonham was such a monster drummer. I think Pace is in the same league, in my opinion. Look, when the song picks up, it's got that double time feel. You can sort of picks up and it brings more excitement. And there's all this flurry of explosive notes from Richie Blackmore. This is the second part of the solo I'm talking about. And there's an urgency. It's got like an anxious feel, and then when it drops back off, there's like this calm, and then John Lord just brings that mellow sets from the anxious and anxiety feel back to a calm again. And I believe this song was written lyrically or based around Vietnam War, so they set that mood. And I think if you think about Vietnam War, you can hear the anxiety, the calm, and they've just done it so well. There's a few little things here I've written. I've written a whole book on this song, guys. I'm going to cull it a little bit. But
keep going.
I love the keyboard and guitar interplay towards the end of the solo section. You can hear them playing the same line. Then it changes into a harmony for 2 or 3 passes to the end of the solo and abruptly ends. That's where John Lord takes that mellowness back to the song. It's funny, the dynamics of this song. You can jam this song with a band, and it's hard to get the dynamics right because it's just natural for these guys, and I don't think it's easy to pull this off at the best of times. Look, the song ends in such a powerful way, and this to me is absolute masterpiece. It's 100 out of 10, and it's probably within my top 5 Deep Purple tracks of all time. It'd be in my top 10 favorite songs of all time. So 100 out of 10 for me, never a skip.
Wow.
I
think I'll just give my score and we'll move on.
I'm sorry, that was a long explanation of the song, and I'm sorry, guys, but
no, don't be sorry. It's fantastic. Hit all the nails everywhere.
It really this song demands that. So
Oh, it demands it, all right. I mean, yes, it is one of the great classic Deep Purple songs. Classic songs, never mind Deep Purple, but they wrote some fantastic. I don't have anything to add, really. I mean, I think it is a masterclass in dynamics, as you said. It starts off, it's that emotional singing that Gillan sings, very pure, quite pure, at the beginning. Very kind of pure voice and stuff. He's got that in his voice. Very, very kind of emotive and stuff. And it's an extraordinary track. And I can't think of another one which does, from another rock band, that does quite the same thing as this does over 11 minutes. So whatever it is, 10 minutes. But and it was always a tour de force on their live stuff as well. And I think that. But you're right. They've done it in the studio. They've done it live. They can do it. I mean, I've seen that classic live track. with him playing a 3-2-5. I've seen that. I've seen quite a lot of vocal coaches do reactions to it and stuff. And they talk a lot about the way Gillan sings and the way he can do that and that purity to start with, and then the ability to take it to that screaming bit is just extraordinary. And so few vocalists can really do that. And for me, it's 1,000 out of 10. I mean, it's just how many noughts would you like me to put on the end of the 10 to make it?
Excellent.
For me, it absolutely is. It's I love it every time I hear it. It has a tremendous emotional quality to it. Mr.
Thanks,
Walton.
Look, and a lot of people are agreeing with what you guys are saying in the chat. We've got 19 at one stage. We had about 28 people watching us, so we really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. If you're watching the replay, please subscribe to our channel. We're about 130 away from getting our 1,000 goal. Help us do that, please. That would be really great for the algorithms and getting our channel into some news feeds out there, because we want to do that. Brad, your introduction, your elaboration and description of the song, followed by the right professors, is just amazing. I can't add more other than it's just rock and roll sophistication. The layering that these guys have done on this song, the storytelling that they've done is just phenomenal. It's one thing that these British guys do, and I'm sorry to keep harping on about it, but they can paint stories for us in this music, and I just love it. It's mind numbing. Derek made a comment in the chat. Listen to this at night time. In the chorus there, I couldn't help but hear. So it brought back memories of the Green Manalishi by the Fleetwood Mac. When towards the end there of the Green Manalishi, where Peter Green's going. So I like that. I like that. I like this building on something. Look, it may not be, but to my ears it is, and that's what I like. I love the fact that they can do that. I can't give this score anything other than 100 out of 10. One of the defining Deep Purple songs, and I'm glad that everybody agrees.
And it's unlike any others. I can't think of another rock band that does a song like it either.
Not even Led Zeppelin.
No, not Led Zeppelin. No, absolutely not. It's it seems to have arrived on something that is kind of unique, and they in many ways, I'm sure people have done it after that. But morning, Jimmy Ray. Anyway, what a way to end side one.
I know, and it's 3 songs, side 1.
Do you want to flick through the picks now, bro, or do you want to do it later?
I think it's a great time to set a bit of a mood before we hit track, side 2.
Okay, bro. Hold on. Okay, so you can describe what you and the Rock Professor can describe what we're throwing up there.
Yeah. Well, that's the album cover. You can see it's the band's Mark II version of Deep Purple in Mount Rushmore. So they're replacing the US presidents there. And I think that's a really bold statement because they're a British band. They did it that way. And they're saying the title of the record, Deep Purple, in rock. So it sets the mood. You know what you're up against straight off the bat. There's Richie Blackmore displaying his what would you say? His flamboyant way of playing, and his quite quirkiness on stage. He was quite a unique character. We'll leave it at that. Ian Pace in the background, always just for some reason I just noticed with Ian Pace when he's playing, he was just listening all the time. He wasn't really looking at people, but he was pretty much leading this band. It was like such an amazing drummer, and the dynamics were all coming from him. But you can see in the background, here we go. Here's an even better picture that I was just about to hit, the Marshall Stacks. It's such a good look for them. And I think Deep Purple, they really, and I should probably read something here in a minute, but they really wanted the Marshall look because they loved the Marshall look, despite the fact that Richie Blackmore actually preferred the sound of a Vox amplifier. He preferred the sound of a Vox amplifier. I might read something in a second once we go through these picks. But that's
Brad. Sorry, can I look at this? Look at the drum kit. Look how small it is.
Yep. He was a minimalist.
94 drums. Yeah,
a minimalist, and they all were minimalist when it came to effects or anything like that. They really just relied on the instrument, and obviously Ian Pace was really big on just using hi-hats, snare, kick, one rack tom, or just one floor tom, one rack tom, and that's it, sort of thing. So they obviously used more, but that when you could strip a band back to just that and they can still perform the way they did, that's just insane, if you ask me.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lovely, happy photo of them there. So you can see you've got John Lord to the far left. Ian Pace is the drummer, second to the left. Ian Gillan, the magical singer, there in the middle. You got the mystique of Richie Blackmore there, second to the right, and then you've got Roger Glover far right there. So that's it sets a mood. You can tell what the band looked like around this era. There's a color photo of them. Always a really happy looking bunch, as you can see. Always sporting a smile on their face. I'm being smart, but so Richie Blackmore actually like he's snarling there, to be honest with you. But they weren't big on doing promo photos. They weren't big on all this stuff. They would just want to play music. So there's a very happy, cheery looking.
That's them in the studio, bro.
Yeah, in the studio. Ian Gillan's got his hair sort of pulled back a bit. He always had this really long hair for a long time, and I remember reading somewhere that he cut it all off to become a salesman at the end of his stint with Deep Purple, and I was just like, wow, just wow. But, so yeah, you can see there, far right, that's John Lord. He always sported that very masculine moustache. And over there sitting down, that's Richie Blackmore. So to the far left, there's Ian Gillan in the top corner, Roger Glover at the bass, and Ian Pace looking very swag and cool there with his sunnies on in the studio, holding a couple of drumsticks. And this is the Mark II lineup. So you've got John Lord, Ian Pace, Richie Blackmore, Roger Glover, and Ian Gillan. So this is a very classic era, 69 to 73. So Mark II and Mark III are definitely my favorite two eras of Deep Purple, but Mark II will always have a soft spot because I feel like that's when the band became Deep Purple to me.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep. This is the lineup, all right.
And this is a really cool picture, and it shows the swagger of someone like Ian Gillan. He's a young cat, and he was, he was the front person of this muscular band. I'll say muscular, not necessarily in physical appearance, but in the way they performed. That was so muscular and tough. Just an amazing era for music too, and I've always loved the look of this band on stage. Just such an amazing. You see John Lord over there in the left with his Hammonds, and just that was an amazing thing for that period of time too. He was a pioneer on Hammond instrument for sure, and remained that way until he passed. And there's a classic picture of Richie Blackmore doing the splits, getting warmed up for his gym routine. But
do you think Richie's a yoga man?
No,
Zumba. He's Zumba.
Zumba or something. No, in all honesty, his flamboyant stage performances came out in his recordings. I honestly believe that he was probably doing all this in the studio. I really feel that, we have no footage of it, but I'm sure when you listen to the performances of the songs, I reckon he's doing that. And that to me, thanks for showing those, Andrew. They're really great photos that you did that. So I just wanted to quickly read out something here I found in a guitar magazine, and I've just put it here. So this was an interview with Richie Blackmore in April 26, 2018. So it's not that old. I mean, in this big scheme of it, when you talk about, where Richie Blackmore is and how often he's done this sort of things, he doesn't do a lot of guitar magazine stuff. And I do believe, unfairly, that he's been overlooked a lot. And I'm glad we highlight him a lot on these shows. But so over the years, the guitar magazine puts, you've put a few different, you've used a few different amps over the years to get your sound, principally Vox, Marshalls, and Angle, right? He goes, yeah, I love the Vox sound, but wanted to change my Marshalls for the look. Sorry, but wanted to change to Marshalls for the look. I knew Jim Marshall very well. I used to go to his shop in Ealing, which was close to where I lived, and buy my guitars. I bought my 355 there, and funnily enough, Mitch Mitchell was serving behind the counter at the time. He was the drummer for The Experience, if anyone doesn't know who Mitch Mitchell was. He goes, and then I'd go there. Yeah, I'd go to the Marshall factory where I met Ken Brand and Dudley Craven, who devises circuitry for me in a Marshall setup. They'd be there with their soldering irons, and I'd be battling away on the guitar trying to get the amp to sound like a Vox. I'd be playing so loud that the women there who were doing all the construction of the amps would storm out together saying, "We can't work with this noise and nonsense going on."
I bet you they weren't saying that. I bet you they weren't saying that.
I was saying a lot more rude things. He goes, so 60 people or so would leave the factory. Then Jim Marshall would come in and say, "I knew you were here. I could hear you from down the road. The office is a couple of doors down." And he was very nice about it. He said, "Carry on. I'll get the women back in working." And then he goes, and then they would devise a soundproof room that I used to go in and play because I was in there so often looking for this sound. One of these secrets was they would deny to this day because they told me they would, as they could not come up with the sound that I wanted. I wanted this Vox sound, which is very distorted and very cutting, but seemed to have a bass resonance. And they just couldn't get that. So in the end, they said, what we're going to do is get one of our combo amps and we'll take it out of the innards and put in the Vox innards. So you can actually be playing a Vox, but it would say Marshall. That was the big secret of the day. So there you go. He reckons he played a Vox and a Marshall in housing. And then they said, was this in the Deep Purple years? He goes, yeah, right in the beginning in 1970. And then we kept going from there. The guys at Marshall were determined to get it right, the right sound for me, and they were very helpful. So what they did was put an extra output stage on one of their 200-watt amps, which gave it a fatter sound, a bit more distortion. This extra output stage basically made the 200-watt into a 280-watt. So for the first probably 5 years of Deep Purple, 70 to 75, I did have the loudest amp in the world. Although I'm sure it's been walked now by people who have 1 million watts. You know how it is. Everyone's got to have one more, going up to what? 11 now, I guess.
Yes.
And he goes 12, exactly. And then they ask him about his effects, and he just goes, I don't use effects. I'm from the old school. The more things you use on stage, the more things are prepared to go wrong. So basically, it goes on, and it's got a big interview here. Maybe we'll put this interview up in the description, in the card later, Andrew, and I'll send you the link for that.
Sure, no problem, brother.
But I think it's a very important interview to read. So I hope you guys don't mind that I read a little bit of that, by the way.
No, it's fantastic. That was really funny, and so typically Blackmore, isn't it? You know, that kind of single-minded vision. You know, that the only solution is to take Vox guts and put them in a Marshall case.
But apparently Marshall are denying that to this day. So
good, excellent.
We're not going to fight with Richie Blackmore though, because I've seen how he performs on stage when he doesn't like someone.
Yeah. See, so it's one of the great things here. Who cares whether it's true or not? It's a great story.
That's it.
Sort of. I mean, just shows, you know, and I think that his thing about, you know, dynamics is a small word, and yet what they did with, you know, with turning the guitar down, changing the pickups, you know, moving the tone controls around and all of that stuff, you know, that's what they learned to do. That's how they learned to play, because that's what they had. You know, they didn't have lashings of, you know, I don't know, chorus and octaves and whatever else you can do these days. It's all fantastic, but you know, they had to make do what they had. You know, amazing.
I love his attitude. It's something about it that it comes through in his playing too. So, we'll get back into the tracks, guys. What do you reckon?
Singular attitude.
Andrew, I've just sent you also the link in your messages, mate, so you can maybe share that later on or whatever it may be to that Guitar World magazine.
Cool.
So
Cool.
it's a good read.
Brilliant.
Good read.
Yeah.
He's a very quirky guy. You know, I kind of like his humor, even though sometimes he comes across a bit arrogant. He's very cool. So so the next song, opening song, Flight of the Rat. From the very opening power chords, Richie Blackmore is sort of serving you all up with a treat to this song. You can feel the feel of the song. Ian Pace, you know, he really could put down a really cool swing and upbeat feel, and he does so well on this track. Roger Glover's holding the low end down perfectly. Gillan comes in singing and captivates us with his vocal immediately. He demands our attention. I love the guitar runs from Richie Blackmore. It's an amazing performance by the whole band as well. I love the drum fills. You know, that section leading into about 1 minute 40. If you're ever listening to it and you think of that, it's just Ian Pace is just a sensational drummer. There's some cool overdubs in this song, guitar parts that are overdubbed. There's some unison bends in harmony and some very, very clever orchestrated parts as well. The organ solo from John Lord is outstanding. Richie Blackmore guitar solo. You know, it's a fantastic way he executes everything. His solos, the note from the first note to the last note of his solo. I personally think he constructs it, and I think as much as there is improvising in there with his playing, he's constructed some of his solos, and this is a perfect example of that. And I mean, moving forward into Highway Star and all these things, you can tell they would orchestrate parts of their solos, which is why I think a lot of musicians gravitated to this band more so than sort of Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and you know, those sort of bands. But there's some where am I up to? I've got lots of notes on this song, so I'm going to skip a lot of them. The way he starts off the solo, really nice choice of notes, and the way he ends the solo with the wang bar, the wah pedal sections, the feel of the whole song changes again. It's like a bit of a journey. The outro part, we're hearing more vocal gymnastics and a drum solo. Ian Pace is in a league of his own. And look, I feel like this is a live performance. There's a few overdubs on it. It's just outstanding all round by all members of the band. 10 out of 10, never a skip for me. Solid.
Yeah, I mean those three chords at the beginning, a very sort of punky sort of feel to them, very kind of garage band feel. That was and then, you know, I'll highlight a couple of things on here. I mean, I think that that in the dynamic, you know, that wah wah bit in the middle, it goes, just plays a kind of rhythmic thing in the middle. You know, it's like I'm just gonna to change it, just to have a dynamic difference to it. I also think that sudden stop they do. Honestly, you know, it's like, I don't know how no bands today will go, you know, leave like a bar gap, isn't it? It's like it comes straight back in. It's like the confidence to go, we just have silence for a bar, you know, and then come back in again with the intro chords. I just, you know, for me now it's just brilliant because it's that dynamic thing, but it's also having the cheek, the nerve, the confidence to go, you know, we're going to stop, you know, and I get, you know, what I say on here a lot, you know, clearly they're recording it, mixing it, listening to it with their ears, not looking at it on a screen, you know, because if you just saw that gap on a screen, it just, ooh, the temptation to fill it up with something must be quite strong, I think, but not to that, I think is fantastic. I agree with you about that. You know, clearly the song is structured out, isn't it? What they do, and then he's structuring, you know, and I think you're right that he does structure his solos, Blackmore. You know, he structures what he's going to play. So, you know, with the improvisation bits, because sometimes he's just off on it, isn't he? But 10 out of 10 for me, never a skip, fantastic. You know, yet another lesson that you know if you've got a 8-minute song, that those dynamics are what make it, you know, and that ability to do that stuff, loud, quiet, stop, start, different rhythmic things, you know, it's all in there. How to do it, like a blueprint.
Yeah.
So yes, 10 out of 10 for me. Never skip. Fantastic, Mr. Walton.
Andrew.
Yeah, the way the band reconvenes on this song is just remarkable, isn't it? That breath, that space that they give. Instrumentally, there's so much going on, and it works. You know, there's a lot going on, and Brad's already mentioned what's going on. So go and check it out. It's a epic. It's the one song on the album when I first heard it the first couple of times that had me stuck because I think I was comparing a lot of this album mistakenly to Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath because they were the other bands that we were listening to. So, and if we were honest, if you're listening to these bands, they're going to be gateway bands into this circle, this porridge that we've got of British rock and roll bands. So, I love it. But certainly as I got older, through my 20s and 30s, it's a standout. It's certainly a gem. It's no sleeper on this album. It's a standout. I love it. It's up there with a lot of them. It feels right too. It feels right, and that's what I like. Clearly, Brad mentioned it before. There's some orchestration. There's something going on. And I think this is one of the great things, and he mentioned it in his introduction about a songwriting collective. If a band gets that right, even if they don't like sharing their bacon butties and their pints together, at least when they come together in the studio and they write songs, they're doing that really, really well. And it's a class act. It's something that I think that some bands need to probably follow and pick up on because it's about making music, isn't it? Brad, I love the song. Look, I have to give this a 10 out of 10 too. It's never a skip, a solid track.
Yeah. Such a great opening song too for a side. I think it's the way they pick the album layout of songs on this is fantastic. So I mean, you couldn't have done it any better. And then the next track following this up
Hey, Sonia.
Absolute cracker as well. So basically, you got Flight of the Rat, then Into the Fire, and it's just a sludgy riff. Yeah, it's a sludgy riff, and it's somewhat similar in some ways to Black Sabbath in parts. Ian Gillan sings his way through this amazingly. The chorus line is very powerful, and I do think in some of these performances, I reckon Ian Gillan came close to blowing out his voice because you can hear his voice in this song. He's really tearing. He's really going for it. That execution, just the mark of maybe through the years he damaged his voice a lot trying to pull these things off. And I've heard other singers have done that, and I've heard Ian Gillan sing of late. I'm not going to knock the guy because he's an older man now. But there's no way he could pull this off now to what he did on this song. And the guitar solo on this song, the solos like pans like to the far left. There's so much class. It just goes to show that less is more at times. And really, you can hear his guitar pick on every single note of this solo. The tone that they pulled for this solo is sensational. I love the outro of this song as well. It's another clever cracker of a song, and it's got a cock rock ending. It's a 9 out of 10 for me, and it's never a skip. It's on it.
Yeah, it's as you say, it's that. I mean, definitely got that kind of Black Sabbath type sort of, the riff sort of sounded more in that area, which is interesting because I don't really associate the two bands as being close at all, really, but. It's seemingly one place where they go. I think that they do that classic Purple thing. They have the organ, the guitar, and the bass all playing the riff at the same time.
Yeah.
So you get this massive kind of sound to it that that distorted organ as much as the not very distorted guitar and the bass give it a huge kind of give it a lift and give it a huge weight really that is fantastic to do. I agree with you about the singing as well. I mean, Gillan is on. I mean, I haven't heard him recently particularly, but I don't imagine anybody. I mean, Robert Plant doesn't sing like he used to in Led Zeppelin. I don't think any of those guys. I don't think it's you know, you lose stuff off the top, don't you, and things, and you can't do it. So I don't blame him in the slightest if he didn't. Lucky to have had him then to be able to do it. It's
yeah.
you know, yeah, I'd give this an 8.5 out of 10. I think this is one of the lesser songs on the album, but you know, I wouldn't skip it. Absolutely not. It has the, you know, it's got cool stuff in it, and it's fine with me. Andrew.
I'm glad you guys mentioned some Birmingham grime in this song. I agree with you. You know, it's you can you're getting that butter knife, aren't you? And you're trying to dig that grime out of your fingernails when you're listening to this song. I love it. The instruments dovetail together really well. And the rock professor just mentioned that, you know, and it's classic rock, isn't it? It's just classic rock. It's certainly a song I think that that worked well with them when they played it live and they brought it into the studio. And I have to agree with my co-host. I'm not going to rank this high. It's never a skip. It's definitely got a place on this album. I'm going to give it an 8.5. On a good day, probably 9 out of 10. But it's never a skip. That searing vocals, though, again, is always going to be the defining point, half a point or point difference when it comes to this band, especially with Gillan, because he deserves it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, well, we're in the ballpark, so 8.5 and 9. That's pretty good, though. I mean, the album has got some absolute masterpieces on it, so 8.5's a good score, really, in the scheme of things. So,
and that's the thing is, I'm comparing it against, you know, Sweet Child in Time, and it's like, you know,
exactly.
You know, for me, that's
exactly. I mean, look, we're so that was pretty much Into the Fire. So now we're Become Living Wrecks. That's the next song, Living Wreck. So, look, I don't how the song starts. It's got like a fade in, and the drums, they're very reminiscent of Bill Ward's feel to me from Black Sabbath.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's coincidence or what, but there's that swing that Bill Ward has. Look, I love how the song starts. The riff, you know, while the drums play through some amazing riffs. There's Ian Pace is actually holding this one down, in my opinion. There's some great bass playing, and it's a funk rocker feel. John Lord graces with some really funky organ playing, and also Richie Blackmore. I'm just abbreviating my notes here because I've gone on for a lot, and I'm trying to get rid of the waffle here. But the solo, some sort of effect going on. I don't know if it's studio trickery or it's a pedal or something, but it's like a
octave pedal,
octave or Octavia. I'm not sure what it is. Someone might be able to clear this up in the chat. I couldn't find anything on it on the internet, but someone might have read somewhere what it actually is. But it's it gives you that low end feel, so it does sound like an octave pedal, and the reverb kind of escalates during the guitar solo to create like more of an ambient feel. It's done so amazingly the way they've done it in the studio, which is fantastic. All the way through, I can picture Ian Pace just holding that swing. It's such an amazing feel. The drum fills in the outer part of the song. John Law's solo is next, and it's next level. To me, it's a 9 out of 10. It's never a skip, and some quite outstanding playing on this track in particular. So I'm going to hand it over to the rock professor.
Yeah, the first thing that struck me, you know, because it's got that quite sort of long solo drum intro. You know, we sort of has it. You think, I've never seen anybody say that they sampled that in any way. Have you seen any?
No.
I've never seen any. You know, you would feel to yourself that somebody playing that kind of whatever it is, how many bars it is, on their own, just, you know, you'd think somebody would sample that, surely. You know, everybody sampled When the Levee Breaks, of course. But yeah, and yet I've never heard anybody say they sample it at all. But perhaps they haven't. But it did strike me as like odd, that sort of that you had, as you say, that like funky swinging thing. That you think that must be ripe for a few few samples further down the line. I don't know. I agree with you. I mean, I think they've distorted. I mean, one thing that interests me, and I've made a note of it twice, is that they have a kind of instrumental break that leads into a solo. I don't just start the solo. They have this kind of instrumental bit before they get to solo, and they do it again before the organ solo. Clearly, I presume that's a kind of worked out thing but yeah, they just do something extra before you get to the solos. And I love John Lord solos. I think he's a fantastic organ player. Great feel, great thing. So, I don't have much to add. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Yeah, it's a great song and has something a bit different in it. Clearly, somewhere a bit different to go. But yeah, cool stuff. Andrew.
Look, I love the song. I just want to highlight a comment that Derek made on the earlier song that we're talking about it being reminiscent of King Crimson. I think he's got a point there. I think he's got a point too. So, Brad, I can't help but feel this is Deep Purple's one. They want to get some funk going. This is what I think they're trying to do. Certainly with the rhythm section, they've got something going on there. It's cooking. I like it. But I feel like it starts off exciting, but it just doesn't take it to a lot of other places that I think my heart is hoping that the song could go to, like so many other songs on this album. And it's interesting because the Rock Professor's got this theory. So where's this situated on side 2? Last song?
Yeah, second to last song.
On side 2. So, the Rock Professor haunts my dreams one day before we go live. Yeah. No, he doesn't. Look, I like the song, Brad. I like it. But I just think it just doesn't have that full spark. It's 5 flames out of 6 for me. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah. Definitely worth its place, though. It's not a dud. It's not a dud on the album, but just doesn't finish it for me.
Andrew and Simon, it's interesting that the band were actually not too keen on this, and they were almost going to leave it off the record. So
really?
Yeah. So but last minute they decided to put it on. But obviously they'd recorded it; they weren't that keen on it, but they decided to put it on. So, yeah.
I did not know that.
No.
Did you know that, Simon?
No, I didn't. No.
So there was also a comment in the chat. And I'm trying my hardest to look at the chat, guys, but because I'm presenting, it's not easy. I think there was a comment there. Was it Keith mentioned something about was there octave pedals? I believe there were. I don't know if they were in production, but the guys were using octave pedals back in that 69-70 period. Yeah. So there were. I'm not sure if they were readily available, like a wah pedal or a fuzz or anything like that. But obviously, through time, they're being developed, and yeah, they were definitely there. So I firmly believe in that solo. Rich is using some form of octavia or octave that knocks the If you go back and
look at Derek's comment here. Maybe Purple influenced Crimson.
Yeah.
Because Crimson came. Dropped their album after this. Holy, yeah.
In the court of the Crimson King.
We've gone from being living wrecks to hard loving man.
Ooh, doggy.
This is the last track of the record, and
don't do that.
Well, what? Sorry, I missed something there.
Mr. Walton is getting slightly out of hand.
No, it's not my anthem.
Hard Lover Man. It's just got an explosive intro. It sounds very reminiscent of Speed King. It's got like that explosive intro.
Yeah.
Richie brings us into the song when they start the riff. The drums come in, the organ coming together. There's quite a lot of tension in this song, and it has a galloping feel. And I'm not sure whether Iron Maiden were, influenced by Deep Purple or not, but I think they would have been. So I can hear that gallop.
Probably.
John Lord's giving us some real vamping chords to create like an ambient sort of tensiony feel. Ian Gillan comes in with some vocal gymnastics. Throughout the performance, his singing on this song is sensational. And I mean, I've got to give him credit for the whole record, not just this song. For his first track, or from his first track onwards, and I believe this was maybe the first song they recorded for the record. I'm not sure. It was a riff that Glover came up with, I think.
Yeah, from what I've read.
Yeah, and I believe that this. So what I'm saying is, just quite. I mean, it's the same. If you put it in the same context as when Coverdale and Glenn Hughes took over, and their first record was Burn, and the first track on it's Burn. It's just like, oh, my God. So same thing. These guys were in a league of their own. They were young guys, very young guys. If we weren't really sure about, Ian Gillan's vocal ability up until this point, he certainly proves what he's capable of doing on the higher notes in those screams. It's just unbelievable. The solos in this song are epic. The first one is John Lord. There's an intense solo. And the band are chugging along underneath him. I love that. They're just sort of holding it down. There's nothing fancy going on underneath it's like out of respect. They're just holding it for him to give everything he's got. Feels like a bit of a jam. It's structured. At about 3 minutes 33, we hear a big dong and it kind of reminiscence of a gong. I'm not sure whether it's a gong behind him or something like that. It's quite a large dong. It's not just from a cymbal. The lead guitar solo, there's some harmonized parts. He's like harmonized himself on another track. Richie was like an expert at doing that. He used to record a line and then harmonize himself.
Yeah.
And he was phenomenal at doing that. So that just goes to show a lot of his stuff was improvised, but also structured. And we hear some amazing flavors and notes. There's repetitive lines that he does, that he harmonizes. There's some unison bends that he's doing harmonies and there's organ guitar lines and guitar lines played together in this as well. And that's a classic John Lord, Blackmore thing. They played so well together, and it was like they were almost like one at certain points of the time. It's an outstanding track. Ian Gillan's vocal ability is just outstanding. I love how the riffs played on the organ, and the guitar chugs the line behind it. That's sensational. I love that stuff. Look, I don't know. I don't know where to go from this. This is a fantastic last song. It's never a skip from me. It's like a 9.5 out of 10 for me, this song. And what an album. I'm exhausted after doing this album because there's so much going on in this album. And it's only, 7 tracks?
Yeah, only 7 tracks. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Simon.
Yeah. Yes, well, yeah. I'm surprised you're exhausted. Exhaustive details. I agree with you about everything about this. The way that one thing that I did note was that at sort of 4:42, they John Lord is playing and he goes to a note. Richie Blackmore's playing and then he goes to a note and then it morphs into an organ note. So they kind of, it's like an exchange thing. It's fantastic, kind of, Clearly, you've got to know what you're doing and be able to play together to do that, because it was absolutely seamless. They go from the guitar to the organ, which is fantastic. I think the stuff at the end, the guitar panning at the end, where they just stop and then come back in again. Again, speaks of such confidence that you just leave a gap and then come back in with just like God, listen to that on headphones. You're going like that. I can tell you. That's fantastic, and it's the kind of the panache with which you have to, to do that. To just do that kind of panning, to go, this is how it's going to go. Look, here's another effect that we haven't used much. We're going to do it at the end. Yeah, it's amazing. As you say, all the different parts, loads of dynamics in it, going back and forth with the organ, the guitar solo, the Gillan's vocals. You've got so much weaponry to deploy in a song, haven't you? If you've got those three fantastic instruments to do it, and that bedrock of Glover and Pace laying it down. And you're absolutely right. That bit when they do a solo, organ solo, something like that, they just sit in, don't they? Sit in. They don't do anything crazy. They just sit in, keep the groove going, keep it going, and let the guy on the top shine. It's really cool. Really cool. 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Great ending.
Yeah, look, I have to agree with you guys. It's relentless, isn't it? But everything is relatable in this song. That collaboration between the band is it's there for your ears. And I'm glad that Brad mentioned Martin Birch's role and significance in this album, because this is the song, according to my research, that got him the gig. They were happy with what he did with it. The vocals are earnest, aren't they? It's just phenomenal what this guy can do. I'm not going to repeat everything, the wonderful presentation and elaboration and articulation that my two co-hosts have done gives me easily in the third place the easiest part of the night. So I just have to give it a score, basically. You guys have done well with your rankings. Brad, what a monster album. When this album dropped, the reviewers loved it. It deserved its place. It, as you said in your intro, it kicked them into rock and roll history, didn't it? I love the album. I have to give this song, this 0.5 thing that I got in the back of my mind. Look, I'm still going to stick with my 9. I'm going to agree with you guys. I'm going to give it a 9, but on a good day, it could be a 10. Cracker ender, 7 minutes. You guys have to remember this. This is an album of that you. You were exhausted giving your bloody introductions and your rankings, Brad. I was bloody exhausted listening to this album.
Yeah,
it feels like it's a double album.
Yeah, it's a big, epic album, isn't it? And it's only 7 tracks. I'm glad, Simon, you also mentioned that little fade in and out of the music and leaving Richie to play. That's that to me was something I had in my notes, but I culled it. But that the confidence in the way the band were, they're probably in the mixing process go, let's just let Richie there pull us out.
Yeah.
And then faded it back in there just to highlight what Richie's doing there. I thought that was really clever. But overall, thanks guys for letting me pick this record and going through it. I've had an exhausting but really fun time going through this one. And if anyone's watching this later and takes anything away from this, at least go and listen to Child in Time again. Go and have a listen to that and really focus on what's going on there. There's just some mind-blowing musicianship there.
Look, I'm glad that Jimmy Ray said something about Van Halen, because in preparation for this show, I got a couple of messages from some people, and a very good friend of the channel, Alan Garber, sent me a message saying that this album was one of Eddie Van Halen's favorite albums, and we never contradict anything Alan says, because he's been a Van Halen fan for a long, long time. So it's not surprising, because the Rock Professor mentioned that he heard some Van Halen techniques coming through. And even Keith, who was with us last night, said and agreed with it too. So, Brad, foundation album, pivotal album, isn't it? It's certainly got its place in rock and roll history.
100%. And, I don't want to rank it, or maybe I'll rank it anyway. The song Black Knight, which was a single, and back in this day and age, a lot of the time singles weren't actually added to the albums. So Black Knight, I have to give it 100 out of 10. I mean, it's every guitarist's first riff they learn usually, and it's just an amazing piece of music. And you guys don't have to rank it. I'm sure you probably rank it about the same. But this album with Black Knight on there is probably one of the greatest records in rock history.
Yeah. Just a quick word on Martin Birch, just in case. He did Fleetwood Mac, then play on the mid-period stuff. Deep Purple, of course, John Lord, Bernie Marsden, Wishbone Ash, including Argus, Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, he did as well, Whitesnake, Iron Maiden, put all of their records up to Fear of the Dark. All their early stuff. And I must tell you, it's an interesting, we talked a bit about Iron Maiden and that galloping thing. I wonder if, it's something that he took to them. Yeah. Plus, you've got Jeff Beck, Ola, all sorts of stuff, Peter Green. So, and, one of the backbones of English rock music, Martin Birch, absolutely.
Yeah. You guys in the chat clearly have been loving these Deep Purple albums that we've ranked. So if there's a Deep Purple album that you want us to rank, message Brad, because he's the Deep Purplist. He's the DP. He's the DP of the band, of the group. Message Brad and twist his arm, and he might throw your suggestion in soon.
Yes.
At some point, we're definitely going to do Made in Japan.
We're
absolutely going to do that.
Well, unless the rock professor gets in there and sneaks one in past the goalie.
Yeah. So next week's album is no.
But if you guys do have a Deep Purple album that you want us to rank, have a chat to Brad.
Yeah.
I'm going to get everyone in the chat and whoever's watching this later, go and have a listen to the 20th anniversary of this. There's a piano version of Speed King, which is very interesting. Black Knight, there's the full unedited version of Black Knight. There's a couple of jams on there as well, and some, Roger Glover did some remixes as well, which are fantastic. The Speed King Roger Glover mix is one of my favorites. But go and check that out. It's definitely worth it. I do really enjoy the piano version of Speed King. It's quite unique, but I have to say the heaviness and the explosiveness of the Speed King on this record is just outstanding.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kenneth. Thanks, brother. Yeah, I think you're right.
Kenneth.
Go and check out. If there are re-releases, obviously we won't do the re-releases on this show. It'll always be the first album. But if any of the co-hosts recommend that you go and check out the re-releases, go and put some headphones on, make a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or get yourself something a little bit stronger and go back and listen to some of... I certainly did. I listened to a lot of those tracks too, bro, over the week, so worth it.
Yeah. Well, thanks,
Yeah,
guys. I had a good time.
Fantastic.
This was fun. And despite the fact that my eyes are hanging out of my head and I'm exhausted from the weekend and listening to this record, I think it was a great show. And thank you, everyone, for joining us in the chat.
You did well, brother.
Energy.
You did well.
Brought
You
the
did
energy.
well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
I think it's one of those things where, if a few people go back and recheck the album out or check it out, because of what we've talked about here, that's really cool, because it's up there.
I haven't listened to this album for a little while, so I was cranking it all week, and even on the plane down to Tasmania, I had it in my earphones, and probably everyone else could hear it too because I had it that loud listening to Speed King,
Awesome. Brad, have you got the chat up to say goodbye to everybody? You going to do the final shout out? You're a champion.
Before we go too far, and
Brad's new album is called "On the Plane to Tasmania."
on the plane to Tassie.
I'm going to call it the Hillbilly Stomp.
Hey, listen. I've got to get myself out of the shit too by the earlier comment that I said about Tasmania. I went and did this sales course years ago with 30 Australians, and it was utter mayhem and chaos. And there were about half a dozen guys from Tasmania on the course here in New Zealand. Anyway, all these Australians, from Sydney and Melbourne were giving these Tassies grief, saying, "Do you guys have electricity in Tasmania? Do you guys have street lights in Tasmania?" Yeah, you know, just giving these guys, you know. So that's why I just said to you, you know, do they have airports in Tasmania? Poor Tassies. And you know, the sad thing about that is Tasmania is closer to New Zealand than Australia.
Yeah, well, you know, I was going to say
Be careful.
Tasmania is like a poor man's in New Zealand, isn't it?
Oh!
Or is it the other way around? New Zealand,
Oh!
poor man's Tasmania. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not
Quick,
offending anyone.
Get us out of here before we have New Zealand Australia warfare.
Yeah, we've got enough of that shit going on in the world today, mate. We don't need to add another division.
Guys, I'm only joking. I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm just being cheeky. It's actually the other way around. New Zealand's poor man's Tasmania, isn't it? I'm gonna get out of this. I'm going to be very nice to everyone.
Brad, keep digging. Where's Tasmania?
Andrew's going to send the heavies round soon. I better get out of here. So I'm going to thank everyone in the chat.
Exactly. Where is Tasmania?
Who's got the pick for next week, gentlemen?
Me.
Okay, so if you guys want to, just give me a second. I'm going to put up some Instagrams. So there are the Instagrams. If you want to find out what the album is that we're going to do, you need to subscribe to Simon Williams 33 to find out firsthand. Otherwise, if you are subscribed to this channel, I'll do a story on our community page once he decides what he's going to drop on us. And everyone,
I know what we're going to do.
But he won't tell you.
I'm not saying here. Well, I know what we're going to be doing.
Awesome. I like someone who's organised and works it out in advance.
Well, good to see somebody here is.
Yes, somebody's organised in this.
Someone's got to be, you know. Someone's got to be the leader of the pack, you know. So I'm going to thank everyone in the chat, guys, while I've got it up. I want to thank Keith Campbell for joining us yesterday and today.
Fantastic.
You know, thank you so much. You know, it's lovely to have such a kind human being on the show yesterday, and great to see all your wonderful comments in the chat today.
Yeah.
And so we've got who we've got? Helen Winter, we've got Crappy Luxury, Helen O'Hara, we've got Ellen Vorishin, who's my mother, for anyone who doesn't know. We've got Holly Lewis, thank you, Holly. Hugh Caldwell, we've got Hugh, yeah, we've got Jimmy Ray Hawkins, we've got Gretch Zeppelin, we have got Kenneth K, my father, in the chat. We've got did I mention Derek Clapton? We know it's Eric Clapton, mate. We know it's Eric Clapton.
Thanks, Eric.
Derek is Eric, yes.
It's we've got someone in the chat here, which I think, you know, depending on their album choice, might have to get timed out. We've got Simon Williams in the chat, so thank you very much. We've got Robert Ranford. We've got who else? We've got quite a few people here at the top, which I don't want to miss. But I want to thank everyone for coming in. We've got Simon Williams. I just lost it. Got to stop commenting, guys. It keeps going down to the bottom. I'm trying to get to the top.
Some might say you lost it several years ago.
I've lost it. So yeah, there's. Did I mention Nelson? Thank you, Nelson. We've got Sonia. Sonia's been in the chat, just listening, and thank you for joining us. Another shout out to we had Johnny Bean in the chat while he was doing his own show.
It's good to see. It's good to see that we're a never skip show.
Yeah, we've got Leo Safko in the chat. Thank you, Leo. I'm getting to the top now. And we have got, geez, guys, we really appreciate all these comments. I haven't seen a lot of these while I've been presenting, so I am endeavoring to go back and have a look. So, guys, if I've missed you, thank you so much for joining us. Robert Ranford was there.
Johnny Heartbreaker.
Yeah, Johnny Heartbreaker.
Good to see you, man.
And that's it, guys, I think. But thank you all for joining us. And if I've missed you, I do apologize. We look forward to seeing you guys soon. anyone who's watching this later, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, everyone. And we haven't got far away to get to. Oh, Phil Byers. I missed Phil Byers. I wanted to make
Nelson
sure.
Rodriguez.
Nelson Rodriguez. And, we know our good friend Warren will be watching this later too, mate. So all the best. Again, I know we shouted out to the start, but shouts out to you. And please help us grow. Keep sharing this like you are. We appreciate it. Peace.
Cool. Bye.
Bye. I'm too busy typing. Bye all. Take care. Have a good week. Stay safe.
Where's this show? Where's this button? Keep waving.
There's the button.
Keep waving. There it
Keep
is.
waving. Keep doing stuff.
Keep waving.
Put...
Shh, bye.